It's 6 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mara Mukanda, and it is a World Hijab Day today. World Hijab Month. Yeah, let's call it World Hijab Month. And the hashtag this year is dressed, not oppressed. And you've heard from the previous guests that I had and the challenges that they faced living in a country like South Africa. And it is not without its challenges. I don't think there is a country in this world that where Muslims do not face any challenges, especially covered Muslims. And joining me right now is a Jordan-based hijab and a women's rights activist, Bushra Moqbal, to share her experience as a hijabi who lived in Europe, and also shedding light on the struggles that Muslim women continue to face in that part of the world. And we still stand in solidarity with our sisters in the Europes and the Americas and the struggles that they continue to face and the Islamophobia. That is the real oppression, not the oppression that they think we face by wearing the hijab. All right, let's chat to Bushra. Assalamu alaikum, Bushra.
Maximum, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, all good. And yourself? Shukran for joining me.
Thank for inviting me.
All right, it is a World Hijab Day today. So, what does the hijab mean to you?
So the hijab means something different to many different Muslim women. But to me, it's a symbol of my faith, it's a symbol of my identity, and it brings me back to my roots and reminds me of the importance of my religion. I was born and raised in England, and I have lived there all my life. So it's easy to kind of get lost in the British identity and kind of put your Muslim identity to a side. But alhamdulillah, I have been wearing hijab since I was 12, so it has been a good few years. But it's not easy, but alhamdulillah, what matters is that kind of we stick to who we are and what we believe to be the right thing, which is harder, especially when you live in a secular society.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us about your experiences, living in Europe, living in the UK, and the challenges that you face. I mean, we have seen them, we have heard of them, and we have read about them, but we did not
Yeah.
get first experience ourselves. So, tell us about it.
So I love wearing the hijab, and I don't actually see it as a challenge, because if you're calling hijab a challenge, then you're saying that the problem is with us and with hijabis. But the truth is, the problem lies in the community and the way in which, especially the European minds, how they were socialized to kind of the xenophobic way that they were socialized into thinking that if you're different, you're wrong, and you don't belong here. But as a matter of fact, we've become such an interconnected world that there's no place for that kind of mindset anymore. So I would say that a few of the challenges I have faced would be that it's very easy to stand out. You kind of fitting in seems difficult in the beginning, but as a hijabi, standing out may not be a bad thing because you're representing the religion. So that just kind of puts that extra responsibility on us to act in the best possible way and to kind of represent Islam in the right way. I would say, though, that a challenge is the misconceptions and the prejudgment that comes before you're meeting a hijabi. So a lot of the time, everybody assumes that I would be kind of a quiet, conservative, just kind of not really have my own voice and opinion because of the misconceptions that have been spread about Islam and specifically about Muslim women. Because the way that they view hijab and the way that hijabis actually view it is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the challenge is that they group us all into one category when in reality Muslim women are so different and from so many different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. True, and I like that you mentioned that Muslim women are different from so many different backgrounds, and we all also face a different struggle with the hijab, and we wear it differently. We bet. At the end of the day, we still wear it proudly as it is part of our identity and our faith. People will see us and say, okay, that's a Muslim woman. Now, do you think that the people in the Europes and the Americas somehow fear this cloth on our head? I mean, it has been there around for centuries. It's not the first time that women are wearing hijab. I mean, when we look at the nuns, that is hijab. Although it's not the words that are used, but that is hijab. Now, when it comes to Muslim women, do you think that they somehow fear it? That's why they need there's a need for it to be removed.
I think there's two parts to the question. The firstly,
Mm-hmm.
not the cloth that they're fearing, but it's this idea, like I mentioned before, of xenophobia that has been just reproduced and is so embedded into the society that anything different is scary, it's wrong. So what they're fearing is people that are different to them, that have different beliefs. But at the end of the day, me being raised in England my whole life means that I'm actually more similar to British people than, for example, Arabs, because I am originally Palestinian. So I would say that I am closer to them in some way, but there's always going to be that barrier, and that barrier is not the Muslims' mindset, but it's the other side's mindset, because to them,
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult for them to wrap their head around this idea. And I think that's where one of the problems lies. And secondly, the idea of covering hair and modesty has been around for a while, but what is kind of scarier about the hijab to them is we all have opinions and voices, and we aren't just trying to stay quiet. So maybe what they're fearing is that we are trying to represent ourselves in the society, whether it's no matter what we are involved in university or in kind of the political sphere, etc. Because we are kind of going out there and doing the best that we can, that is something that I think they may fear.
Mm-hmm. And they fear the numbers rising, that the numbers of Muslims are growing. And I think like they fear that, no, we are losing our identity. But I think they have an identity crisis and they need to sort out their own identity crisis. Now, what do you
So
think can be done?
yeah. Okay, go on.
All right. What do you think can be done to help raise awareness and ultimately combat this issue that we see in
Mhm.
the Europes and the Americas?
I think all hijabi women are trying to combat this problem anyway. One
Hmm.
simple way to do that is just for every hijabi to believe in the reasons of her wearing a hijab. And of course, it's for yourself. You're wearing the hijab not because of society, because you want to wear it. And I think that's even stronger in the European communities, because we're not even being pressured or in a society where there's loads of hijabis and Muslims around us. So that kind of makes you stronger in your reasoning of wearing hijab. So I think that one way that we can kind of tackle the problem is to be the best that we can in order to show everybody that we are the same as everybody else. Our identity just adds, it's our USP. And the
Hmm.
rest of it kind of speaking and skill set, it's exactly the same as other people. And I think as long as we are just trying to enter into society and every single kind of different career path, etc., then inshallah, hopefully in the future, then it wouldn't be that problem. But the problem is in the mindset, and that's what needs to change.
Hmm. All right. So now we're going to take a quick break. But before we do you feel that today's youth who are not Muslims are more accepting of the hijab than the older generation? Please hold that thought and we will continue after the break. Let me put my phone on charge.
Charge it for you. Where's the charge?
Yes.
Costumes with just one glare. We know what it's like to be at ground zero with food essentials, clothing and blankets, fresh water portal trucks, and even on site navigators. We use every cent to better their tomorrow. Become part of our journey to bring relief to all. Go to www.ashrafulaid.org or call us on 011 809 8181. Ashraful Aid, under the auspices of Maulana Suhail Wadi.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Your act of love gives hope. Islamic Relief supports orphans and vulnerable children in 28 countries with food, education, and medical care. There are more than 150 million orphans in the world. You can give hope to one. Sponsor an orphan today. Go to www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Little bare feet on the icy wet ground, a shiver at his lips, mud on his clothes. When he is cold, the hunger is worse, the nights are longer, and the pain is more severe. What if this was your child? The Al-Imdad Foundation's Global Winter Appeal allows you to make a difference for refugees, IDPs, and struggling communities in 21 countries globally. Sponsor a winter pack today for just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. It is 12:18 and we are still unpacking the issues and the challenges that Muslim women face globally. And my guest is Jordan-based Hijab and women's rights activist Bushra Moqbal, sharing her experience as a hijabi who has lived in Europe, in the UK rather. That's where she grew up in, and she is not without her challenges, and we have seen them. We also took we took a stand as well in some of the Islamophobic comments and attacks that have been made against the women in that part of the world. Bushra, shukran for staying on the line. Now, before the break, I asked if you do you feel that today's youth who are not Muslims are more accepting of the hijab compared to the older generation?
I would have to say yes and no. I would say they are more accepting because we live in an even more interconnected society, which means that non-Muslims have been able to live with and kind of hear from and know from actual Muslims rather than just hearing about it on the news. However, the rise of liberalism and this kind of very, very open-minded society means that they actually don't understand Muslims and wearing the hijab. So I think a lot of my generation and the new generation genuinely believe that the hijab is an oppression. But they know that just because, like, from their views rather than actually hearing from us. So I think that actually means that they are less accepting of it, and they are taking part in kind of movements that are against the hijab and against the idea of what Islam really means to them, because they don't understand what it means. And I think that's because of how they perceive Muslim women to be. There's still the idea of oppression, even though we've worked so hard to try and combat this. This kind of mindset that we are oppressed and wearing the hijab and covering up is just another way that Islam is oppressing us, when in reality it's actually doing the complete opposite of us. It's freeing us from kind of the male gaze and the societal views. So rather than just judging us based on what we're wearing, they're having to actually get to know us as people. But I think that's still a problem that the youth and my generation are facing.
Hmm. And you know what? I think there's an issue of double standards here when it comes to
Mhm.
Muslims, Muslim lifestyles, and our dress code, etc. Because if you see, people love the Arab lifestyle. You know, they love to look like Arabs and splash Arab money, etc. You know, when they go to the Dubais and the UAEs, etc. But when you try to educate them about the Muslim woman who is taking a walk down the road, or who is working, you know, she's just living her best life, then it's like, no, she's oppressed. She's this. I'm like, how do we find a
Yeah.
balance there and try to educate the people that, look, you can't have the lifestyle without understanding what Islam is all about?
Mhm. Yes, it's very right. There's another double standards actually, which is that we're always talking about freedom and rights of women and how women should be free to do whatever they want. But when it comes to what they want, being covering up and having kind of an Islamic lifestyle, no, that's not part of
Mhm.
women's freedom. But that's completely contradicting what they're trying to say.
It is. It's like, we want you to have your rights, but no, not like that. Right now, we've seen Muslims, especially in the UK, taking up spaces, you know, being mayors and prime ministers, etc. And that is great, alhamdulillah, mashallah. Now, do you think that we should create our own spaces, or should we continue dominating and being part of those spaces that are already there?
Um, I would say it's very important to kind of have our own personal space, but that's only in order to strengthen the Muslim community and Muslims. Because at the same time, it's also very important to try and continue kind of inputting into the general sphere and the main sphere, because that's where we can really make a difference. So having a Muslim mayor, or I mean, inshallah, a hijabi mayor one day, that
I
makes
mean,
more of an impact on a larger scale, whereas concentrating on your own community. So they're both equally as important, because concentrating on your own community strengthens the bond and the connection between the Muslims. But at the same time, it's also very important to strengthen the connection kind of worldwide or locally in that country.
mhm. Right. This year's theme for World Hijab Day is Dressed Not Oppressed. And what is your message to the viewers out there locally and globally?
I would say, kind of to the non-Muslim audience around the world, as accepting as you are, so we will try to be as accepting as possible, but all we want back is for you to accept us the way we are without asking for a change. And as for my fellow hijabi sisters around the world, believe in who you are and understand how important, I hope that you all know how important the hijab is to you and your reasoning. You're wearing it for yourself, you're wearing it for Allah. So make sure that your intention is pure, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because at the end of the day, you're doing this for yourself. So the most important thing is to believe in what you're doing and do everything with the right intention, and just be strong and excel in whatever field you're in, because that's the way that we're going to combat the current challenges and problems.
Hmm. Indeed. Shukran so much for your time, Bushra, and have a wonderful day ahead. Assalamu alaikum.
Right,
And that was Bushra Moqbal, a human, rather woman, and a hijab rights activist, sharing her experience as a hijabi who has lived and grew up in the UK and has been wearing hijab since the age of 12. You know, having experienced the challenges, the funny looks from people. I mean, we experience them all across the board, but you know, sometimes they become worse. People have their hijab pulled off of their head. People are thrown in front of buses and trains and moving cars, etc., just because they wear the hijab, and people fear the unknown. People fear what they do not know. So we have a long way to go in educating people about Islam and the hijab, and that it is not oppression. If you want women to have their rights, then accept them as they are. Accept them with or without their hijab. All right, it is 12:26. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. We will be right back.